It's another day, and it's another Galneryus song. Today we're gonna listen to, I have to peek, The Garden of the Goddess.
The agony of human race, never living like a shadow, the end of life. Now we can feel the time through the stone lake of tears. Can you hear the sound of sadness? Remember now the pain we took on the road. We want to see some other way, but we are blind. Give me a light and show me the way. We still walk alone. I can't fight this feeling. In everything we can feel that kind of freedom. It's not a dream I wonder. Let me feel your heart and full of joy. Now the game is over. I gotta heal a new agenda. We believe the light of freedom creates your life.
So the setup here seems to be a bit more simple, actually. I mean, it starts out with just the piano, then Yamabi's voice is joining in, and later we hear the guitar joining in. I think Shu said that when approaching songs, essentially the most important core thing they want to nail is that the song sounds good simply with piano and vocals. So this is basically the base of everything, and the whole arrangement will be added around that. There's also a lot of people who have the same kind of philosophy, but with guitar. I think it makes total sense. If it can sound good with the most simple of tools, and if you have to add a lot of stuff for it even to sound good, it might not be the best song in the first place. We're having these really old school kind of vibes. I don't know what kind of era that is or what kind of genre. I'm not an expert in that. But it's inspired by these really dramatic rock songs, right? I mean, that's pretty apparent. I think we're gonna listen to a chunk of it again, just for the lulz.
Lake of tears, can you hear the sound of sadness? Remember now the pain we took on the road. We want to see some other way.
And just notice how good it already sounds. Like I mean, like I've mentioned, it was just piano and it was his voice. It was nothing else, I suppose. At least I heard nothing else. And now we have the strings joining in. Of course, that adds something to it.
But we are blind. Give me a light and show me the way. We still walk alone. I can't fight this feeling. In everything we can feel that kind of freedom. It's not a dream I wonder. Let me feel your heart and full of joy. Now the game is over. I gotta heal a new agenda. We believe the light of freedom.
He just starts in with that steel string. I always enjoy when he does that because it has this nice percussive touch. The electric just doesn't translate for obvious reasons. Yeah, but I just always dig it when that comes in.
Freedom creates your life. Now we can feel the time. Bring this down the ancient rage. Can you hear
And we hear those strings, they sound somewhat cheap. It's kind of funny. I think they could have done a bit more to it production wise to make it sound a bit more huge or whatever, but you always have to consider, I guess, it's probably played directly by the piano. It's not programmed in beforehand, and this is probably how it would sound live as well. But nonetheless, it reminds me a bit of an older MIDI video game soundtrack or something.
Hear the sound of darkness, remember now. No pain, we took on the road. We want to see some other way, but we are blind. Give me a light and show me the way. We still walk alone. I can't find this feeling in everything.
And notice how he constantly sing. It's like he's singing so much stuff. I don't know. There might be some repetition in this. I would assume there's some repetition in this, but I don't know if that's a good word to describe it. But he's he's like vomiting out all of those like emotions.
I can't find this feeling in everything we can feel.
It sounds a bit grander than the first time around.
It's not a dream I wonder.
I like the strings in the background here, especially. It constantly has this, I don't know if that was a good spot to stop, constantly has this rising idea of like, it has a sort of healing kind of sound, which I guess makes sense after the final battle, I would suppose. I don't know if they just fought a mini boss or like a major boss. Someone in the comments told me, thanks for that by the way, that the first 3 albums had a continuous story, so it might make sense that the final boss is still running around somewhere. But this is pretty much a kind of, we're in the garden of the goddess, chill vibes and healing going on, and I don't know what else. Yama B is getting pretty intense here. Almost feels like a Disney movie here. That was awesome. Bro. It kept on rising, right? So, you know, it felt like, okay, this is a kind of positive closure, and then it just went to the next one and to the next one. That was pretty cool. I like that. That might be the chorus, I guess. I'm not entirely sure because it doesn't have that much of a like memorizable melody for me here. It seems every time this is repeated, the strings get a bit more dramatic or something gets a bit more grand. And he sings higher maybe. There's a lot of repetition here. Yuki, let's go. Wow, I love this dude. Wow. So, like my first impression of the song was that it was kind of like predictable. It didn't have this like characteristic Galneryus sound, right? It was a bit more straightforward in what it was supposed to sound like. But I think the more I listened to it, the more attached I actually got to what it sounded like. Especially the latter part with the solo. The solo was pretty cool, and it was also somewhat playable. I mean, you know, I'm not that good at guitar, but I sometimes try to play shoe solos, which is not the easiest task in the world, but this seems to actually be playable, which is a cool thing to try if you want to do that. And then also the latter parts, we had a few elements which kind of sounded like Final Fantasy soundtracks. I guess that's somewhere in the equation anyway. It has this really visceral, dramatic element to it. I mean, just looking a bit in the outro, because I really like what Yuki did there. I think he had one with the piano or strings or something, and then one with this synth. And I like to imagine that he actually manages to play both. You know, he sometimes has like several keyboards around him and plays on both sides at the same time, which is pretty cool. Constantly rising up. This it's kind of a jingly, I don't know what that is, piano thing in the background. This is really Final Fantasy like. I think it's piano. I think this is also, at least in part, the chords they actually play in the Final Fantasy main theme. I love how they always overdo it. You think, okay, a normal song would stop there, but they just continue going a few increments higher, so you know, okay, bro, we're going higher here. We're not everyone else. We're Galneryus, right? That's pretty cool. I don't know if I want to look at the lyrics today because it seemed like he sang a lot of stuff. Let's see how much he actually sang and how much repetition there was, because there wasn't that much distinction between the different parts of the song, at least not as much as in the other songs. It was harder to hear for me which part was which. Okay, it looks a bit longer actually than some of the songs that came before, but it seems fine. So let's just take a look at it. The agony of human race, that's something they touched upon pretty often here. And they're starting with this. Okay, interesting. Never leave like a shadow. The end of life. Now we can feel the time. Throw the stone to lake of tears. Can you hear the sound of sadness? Remember now the pain we took on the road. So they're looking back on the journey, of course, pondering about the agony. Throw the stone to lake of tears. So, I mean, that's of course a like kind of strong metaphor. We're outside, right? We're looking at this rain of tears we've left behind, and we're throwing a stone into that. It kind of just makes a statement. Also, that it's kind of behind us now, but we still feel the pain of it. We want to see some other way, but we are blind. Give me a light and show me the way. We still walk alone. I can't fight this feeling. This is actually a bit of sad, because this communicates to me that actually the main struggle they had at their deepest, darkest point in the story so far, things don't have changed all that much. There has to be another way still, and we can't see it. We need another light we can follow, another bright vision. And we still walk alone, which was this element in Rebel Flag where they were separated on a human level. It's not solved yet. I can't fight this feeling. So it might be also just a doubt he has. It might be a doubt, okay, something tells me things aren't completely resolved yet, despite the last song's title being Final Resolution. But okay, let's go on. In everything we can feel the joy of freedom. It's not a dream, I wonder. Let me feel your heart that full of joy. Now all the game is over. Okay, I think there might be a few difficulties with the language barrier here. I'm not sure if I'm missing something, if I'm reading it just the way it's written here. I mean, especially stuff like, it's not a dream, I wonder. What does that mean? For example, it could mean, I wonder if it's not a dream, which basically means I wonder if it's a dream. So there's kind of an element of doubt if you read it like this, but it could also just mean it's definitely not a dream and I'm in wonder or whatever. So I'm in bliss or something, right? I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Let's just go with a doubtful version, because I think that's more interesting. Let me feel your heart that full of joy. Now all the game is over. I don't think that it's not related to video games in some way. And of course also on a metaphorical level, in the sense, okay, apparently what we've done so far seems to have turned out just to be like playing games. It was something superficial, because we had a lack of understanding of what was going on, and it might just be the case that what's coming next will be the real stuff, right? Now we got a heed of new legend. We believe the light of freedom. Create your life. Now we can feel the time. Bring the storm of the ancient rage. Can you hear the sound of darkness? Remember now the pain we took on the road. So they're already singing about a new legend, right? That the next thing they have to face, the next journey they have to start. There's a lot of talk about freedom. They feel the freedom in everything. We believe in the light of freedom, the joy of freedom. But I mean, what also a potential problem with that freedom is, but with freedom comes responsibility. And also, you know, if you were used to a state of less freedom and now you have fought for this, it might just be the case that you have a phase where you have to ask yourself, okay, what am I going to do now? Like, We put all our resources into fighting this evil and winning freedom, but what now? We didn't have the capacity or the time to think about that. So this might be why there is a like burning thought in the back of his head. How do you say that? In the back of his head, in the back of his mind, telling him, okay, maybe that wasn't everything. Bring the storm of the ancient rage. Can you hear the sound of darkness? They are kind of revisiting the things they have went through, and not in a way that they just remember. I mean, he sings "Remember Now," the pain we took on the road, blah. But to me, it sounds like these things are actually still there. It's not just a memory. There is things in the world, darkness in the world, which is still left. And as long as that's the case, we have to go on. I think that might be the chorus then. Okay, that's also repetition. I can see the light, I can feel the warmth, the time is right for changing, yeah. Like wind I ride, no one can stop the try, only will go ahead to the garden of the goddess. So they're not in the garden of the goddess yet, they're going toward the garden of the goddess. This might be like portrayed in the music through the sound, which gets more dramatic toward the end, although it's not that much really. I'm not entirely sure what they're meaning with changing here, but it feels appropriate here at least, because things are obviously always changing, and like after you end a chapter of something, you leave something behind, of course. Circumstances have to change and you have to change with them, so this kind of makes sense. What I also dig is this, in everything we can feel the joy of freedom. It's like, you know, things are just there. Things are what they are, right? But I think the way you perceive those things can kind of drastically change. You can see everything in the world essentially as dark and negative and restrictive, or you can see everything as a possibility, as something that gives you freedom and joy. It's basically this discrepancy, which also was touched on throughout the story here. Please let me see your garden. The goddess is always there for you. Please let me see your garden. The goddess is always there for you. And they're gonna repeat that for quite a substantial amount of times. I think I kind of dig how they didn't even explain anything. I mean, we had something with angels in the past already. You know, there's just things which seem to be more than just a metaphor, right? For example, we had those wings, and we had the light, the vision they had, the glorious or whatever. Those seem to be metaphors. But if they're singing about angels, if they're singing about the goddess and her garden, it seems to be a bit more, because they actually could be characters. Thematically and symbolically, of course, we have a garden and we have like a female deity, which both points toward it's like a never ceasing fruitful source of life and of joy and of all the good stuff, right? It has this fruitfulness element. Okay, we're walking through the world essentially, and everything is a possibility. Everything is like a fruit from the garden. It makes more sense to sing about a goddess here. I mean, if they would sing about like a glorious castle of a god and not the garden of the goddess, it would mean something totally different, of course. So it's certainly saying something here with this. Although they said, okay, we'll go ahead to the garden of the goddess, we're not even there. Essentially, we can assume that in most of the song, they actually outlined what the garden of the goddess is, even if they didn't like physically describe how it looks like. And also that it's something you strive for. Like you go ahead to the garden of the goddess. It's not a place where you actually are. You strive for it, you walk towards it, and it brings you everything it has to offer. But it could happen at any time that if you have a shift of some sort, which changes this relationship, that basically it's gone again and you have to start again in the darkness. And this might be part of this burning thought the protagonist had here, that things are not completely solved yet. So I think that was enough talk, but the lyrics got increasingly more interesting here, I guess. and I just wanted to explore a bit what that actually could mean. So I think we're almost done with this album. It's one song left,